Hi, I'm John Kepner, a trustee of HealthSpark Foundation. That go back about 11 years when I, quotes, retired. I did a self-imposed sabbatical and spent a year doing a lot of reading, looking at issues that I had deferred, and I decided that I really wanted to stay professionally active and challenged, but my heart was more in the social service sector than the healthcare sector where my career had been. And then I met Russ Johnson, and he sort of opened my eyes to what HealthSpark was doing. I was very familiar with conversion foundations because as a lawyer, I formed some of them when hospitals were sold. But the thing that I was attracted to about HealthSpark was its approach to systemic change. Most of the other conversion foundations that I was familiar with did great work, did great grants in their service area, and so does HealthSpark. HealthSpark had done many things that were systemic in nature. The formation of Your Way Home, Montgomery Anti-Hunger Network were really good examples. I always had a strong background and interest in governance. And so I thought that's something that I could bring to the table. I'm a natural born networker, and the networking interest and whatever talent I had worked well in a governance setting because that's recruiting new board members and thinking about who that and how that whole dynamic was something that I was interested in. I also had the benefit when I was in my last position of doing a lot of philanthropy work. And then there were some other areas of interest that I thought I could contribute to, particularly food and housing insecurity. And then the final area that I thought I could bring to the board was I'd always been interested in diversity, equity, those kinds of things. So I sort of rededicated myself to that. And that really synced up nicely with HealthSpark's values and so forth. And one of the things I learned early on was the idea that trustees are called not just to attend meetings and so forth, but we have a responsibility with regard to diversity. It's not just playing lip service to it. I think everybody comes to a board with different assets. I had fortunate of being at a time in my life when I had time. So time's an asset. Not everybody has time. So I committed in all my board roles, not just HealthSpark, to be an active board member. I also had the benefit of working with a lot of boards on leadership. What I aspired was to enable leadership. I always felt that I could be a contributor in that regard. I also felt that I had a lot of contacts, lifelong set of contacts with in all sorts of different ways. People that have financial resources that could contribute to things we're doing, people that are in the healthcare arena that I knew, and people from my church. How could I contribute those contacts in a way that would add benefit? I was really pleased and volunteered to be on the search committee for our new executive director, probably the most major thing that we've done. And that was a terrific process. HealthSpark had a succession plan all in place. Russ did a great job with prior board before I was even on the board. I learned from that succession plan and how we went about it. So it's been a real learning process for me in a lot of ways being on this board. But in addition to getting a great new executive director, the whole process was a really great experience. I think for me and the other people that were on the search committee, and I have lifelong relationships with the people that are on the search committee. So early in my tenure at HealthSpark, we started to really address more deeply the idea of diversity. This was now going back to 2017, 18 timeframe. And Russ's leadership really brought to the board the idea of what is our commitment to diversity? And it went deeper to equity, to providing resources for people that were under-resourced in our society, a wide view of diversity. And this came up in our governance too, because we wanted even geographic diversity. There was a critical moment when it dawned on me from our discussion that our role as board members would go beyond just organizational diversity, but we each had a personal responsibility in that regard. to do things, and as board members, but individually. And that was a critical learning moment for me, and a personal moment, because I took it to heart. And I think it's embedded in the statement that we came out with at the time. So HealthSpark, it's deep in its DNA, is the ability to collaborate. And I think what's transformed, particularly most recently, is our ability to collaborate with not just other social service organizations where everybody's sort of singing out the same hymnal, but collaborate for the benefit of the overall community with our local government, county government, state government, reaching out to business, finding the value proposition that for businesses, that why they should have a stake in a healthy community, and using that asset and that sort of culture that we have in those kinds of meaningful ways will draw more attention and more collaborative funding to transform our community into a healthy community. And I also think there's a tremendous potential for more integrated cooperation with other foundations for the benefit of our community. Second thing is we do all the usual things: strategic planning, recruiting good members of the board, a good blend of board, a diverse board, and all those kinds of things, which are essential to a successful organization. But that the organization needs to stay adaptive. Crisis will happen. As sure as I'm sitting here, there will be another crisis beyond the one we have now, and we have to continue to be adaptable. Another, I think, big change that I've seen from over the years is the critical importance of advocacy. Advocacy had not really been on my radar screen. To me, advocacy was writing, letters to your legislators. Every once in a while, board members would be asked to do that, and the other boards that I'm on. But that's not advocacy. It's much broader and deeper than that. It's learning, being educated about issues, building awareness of those issues, and then taking action. And it can be personal action. It doesn't have to be organizational action. That had not been in my consciousness. I've seen HealthSpark become more of an advocate. I've seen the value of that, and then that's translated into my own perspective on what I want to do years ahead. There's another aspect to HealthSpark. This isn't something that's changed, but it's deep in, I like to say, DNA, and that is taking risks. And there are all sorts of risks you could take. You could take financial risk with transactions, risk with advocacy. A lot of organizations, including foundations, are risk averse. There was a time early on when I raised the issue of, should we be addressing mission aligned investing? And the response was, our assets are principal assets, and we've got to invest them in the traditional way. That has changed, and shows you that you can change these paradigms, but that takes risk. Sometimes the risk is just speaking out in ways that may not be popular with everybody. And so part of the risk equation is courage. And not everybody has courage. Not all organizations have courage. But I see this organization over time has exhibited that, its ability to change and adapt and take risk.